One of the things we can do during this time is we can create spaces for people to connect, and we can also be very proactive in terms of reaching out to people and just finding out what is going on. So, well and truly, apart from anything to do with business right now, I I'm not sure how many people you've each been in contact with over recent times. For me, it's been many, and I would encourage us to continue to keep those lines of connection going over this period of time. So yeah, again, eh, for the people who are here, perhaps some of the people who are watching, you may also be wondering what this means for you in terms of your business. And again, I'm going to say, before we talk anything to do with your business and how you're serving people in a business space, it's essential that we recognize that we can only coach from the space that we're in. We can only offer people a, a space of healing, a space of understanding, if we have that to give. If we're in a messy or unstable space ourselves, that would be totally understandable. And at the same time as that, I would say that then our responsibility becomes to reach out and seek the support and to provide the support for ourselves so that we can have the best space possible to offer to other people. Because if we're seeking to go out and coach people from a place of instability inside of ourselves, energetically, there won't be a good mix. There won't be a good foundation for us to be able to support people to feel that they have got themselves covered as a conscious being at the level of consciousness. They won't have a solid foundation. And it's that more than anything else that I think that we can offer to people at this time is tools of consciousness, tools of the mind, tools that allow people, or a space that allows people to slow down, to experience ourselves as expansive, to let go of contraction, to be able to see what's going on out there, and at the same time as seeing what's going on out there, dive into this inner space and sense that there is something which is untouched by all of whatever else is going on, something which is still, that we can tap into and feel ourselves peaceful in the face of whatever. You know, one day, lo and behold, the sun will explode. Hey, Justin. And that will probably be the end of humanity at that point, unless we find some miraculous way of transporting ourselves from this blue, increasingly gray planet. Fortunately, with a little bit less of the smoke that's going on right now, except for my local neighborhood, perhaps there is some global pollution which is going down. But at some point along the way, death will come for us all. And at this time, mortality is being brought front and center in the collective consciousness. And this can be quite scary for a lot of people, even if it's not something that they feel is a threat to them. We know that this is something that they're saying is only affecting a small percentage of people who are then inside of a small sector of society. So 65 and plus, the stats go right up in terms of mortality. And yet mortality is something which has come straight into the space. There is some kind of specter, if you will, of death, which is there amongst us. And as such, a lot of people are scared. Scared of that, scared of many things. Scared of loss of jobs, scared of a breakdown of supply chains, scared of a breakdown in terms of status quo society. So there's a variety of fears which are there. And I like to talk about in coaching and therapy, there being a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. There's a vertical axis of consciousness and a horizontal axis of activity. There is the space from which we meet life, and there's all the stuff that we meet in life. Yeah, at some point, if you believe in evolution as I do, humans got up, or not at that stage, it was, our ancestors got up on 2 feet and started to move around through this horizontal plane with a real vision of what was going on around there, and stepped into a vertical plane of consciousness in our bodies. And one of the things which is there for us right now is to check, are we being thrown off our vertical axis? by what is going on? Are we contracting in our vertical axis from all of this activity which is going on around us? Some of you here have done a practice called B time, where you go and sit for 4 hours and do nothing and just be with yourself. What better time for humans to be with themselves than right now? And so I suppose I'm first and foremost putting forward that for each of us as coaches and therapists, please, if we are going to be the ones who are offering a space for other people, start with holding the space for oneself. Start with being willing to stare one's own demons directly in the eyes, or to meet one's contractions with an open space, with an open gaze. And I'm going to invite us right now to actually have a practice in relation to that. So if you're willing to join me, we're going to do a brief meditation before we continue the conversation. And I would ask you to get yourself comfortable. We'll just be a couple of minutes inside of this space, but it's a little taste of what we can do to be able to meet whatever it is we're facing and expand in the face of it rather than contract, open rather than reject. Yeah. So thank you for all shifting your space and getting yourselves ready. So for now, I'll ask you just to close your eyes, and I'm going to invite in a few of the things that many of us are aware of right now. And I ask you just to sense your body and mind's reaction to these ideas. Right now, there's a global pandemic. There's many people's health, which is at threat. There's many people's livelihood, which is at threat. There's global power structures, which are shifting. There is societal systems, which are very, very stretched. Medical system, supply chains, which are threatened. And then there is your personal circumstances. I invite you to let all of that wash over you for a moment, and just to get in touch with your own personal concerns. See if you can feel any energy that arises in relation to your personal concerns. You might find it in the form of emotion, energy, attitude. And momentarily, I invite you to contract your attention into your concern. Allow yourself to buy into your fears. Now I invite you to bring your attention to your breath and sense how your breath is, and gradually allow it to deepen with each breath. Bringing your attention to the front of your body and being, feeling your face, your neck, your chest, your belly, your pelvis. Allow yourself to sense into the space out in front of you and relax into that space. And then feeling the back of your head and neck, back of the upper back, right down to the lower back, down to your buttocks. Allow yourself to feel backwards and relax backwards. Filling out the spaces to the top, to the sides. Allow yourself to feel either side of your body and expand outwards. Perhaps you can hear things beyond you. Perhaps you can sense yourself as consciousness, larger than any concern, simply witnessing and allowing concerns like weather is held in the vastness of the sky to be held in the vastness of consciousness. I invite you to luxuriate for a moment in feeling yourself as expansive. And as you're ready, we can open our eyes and feast them on these beautiful people who are on the screen. And look at these people with goodwill. Thank you, James. I wish you all the best and your family. To all of you and to all the people you care for. Hey, Katie, good to see you. So something we can do again and again when we're snagged by thoughts is to create the space from which we want to meet these thoughts. When we're snagged by feelings, we can create the space from which we want to engage with these feelings. Inside of the coaching that we do, we talk about ARC, which is awakening awareness. We bring awareness to something, and then first, we focus on releasing anything which isn't serving us. We focus on relaxation, so that then when we come to whatever it is we were focusing on, we can come with a more creative space, more space around the thing itself, rather than contracting into something. We can come to it from a broader, more inclusive and conscious view. So let's talk needs, guys. Let's talk about people's needs right now. So let's start with us. What's going on for you? What's going on for you right now? When I say that, what are your fears? And potentially, what are your excitements? What are you excited about? And this is not a rhetorical question. I know I've been filling the airwaves. This is not a rhetorical question. Please unmute yourself or put up your hand. And if you are, if you've got something to share about your personal fears or your personal excitements, I'd love to hear them. I'd also like to adopt something from Christina, which is that if you also share that fear or that excitement, you can go twinkle fingers to say me too. Okay, so so please, has anyone got any personal fears or excitements? Go ahead, Katie.
Start the ball rolling. Well, some of you already know my current fears is just uncertainty. I'm really good with change, and I can handle change, but there's something about having no idea of what's coming, because every day, every hour, there's a new rule or a new restriction, and that for me, being quite logical, I need a lot of structure, even if it can change. I need that foundation is definitely a concern for me. And yeah, I'm finding it really difficult. My anxiety levels are pretty high.
Speak a little louder, please.
Oh, sorry. My anxiety levels are pretty high for the first time in a while. So the combined effect of, germs and virus and all these other things, but also I'm seeing it as a really good opportunity to just sit my ass down, get on with stuff, try and look for the opportunities amongst the chaos, and just kind of go, okay, this is where I'm at, these are the things I'm dealing with, who else is dealing with things like this, what value can I add to to the people around me that I care about, but also what can I do for the greater good. And I'm trying to fill that space as well, so I feel yeah, that's helping a little bit. It's also maybe adding to the pressure, but it's definitely that's how I'm dealing with it.
Okay, so that's fantastic. So can I see on the thermometer who else is sharing some concerns about the level of uncertainty which is going on right now? So that it's pretty, that I just, taking us as a small little poll, that's a pretty strong thing which is going on for people. There is a lot of uncertainty, and there is some things which are well and truly beyond our control in terms of that uncertainty. So something that I really love is this idea of focusing on our circle of influence. There is a lot of things which are beyond our circle of influence right now. There's no telling what government is going to choose what protocols in order to deal with this. There is no telling, of course, how far the virus will spread. There's no telling really what the economic or social impacts are going to be a couple of months from now, given that I wouldn't have expected we were having this conversation with each other a couple of weeks ago. So all those things taken into account, there's a couple of things that we can do here with people in terms of uncertainty. And one of them is to address the central nervous system, to work with the breath, to work with the body, yeah, directly. To deny that those things are there is bullshit. To work with them directly is an obvious and important thing for us to do. So as coaches and therapists, I definitely put forward that one thing that we can do is kind of like what we did before, which is to sense into things. We did that in a very minimal way, in a one-to-many environment, which is also beautiful. But we can work with people one-on-one in that way as well, of bringing attention to the charge that sits there in relation to these different anxieties, the charge that comes from these uncertainties, and then reorienting ourselves through our breath and through our body to a different relationship to unalterables, to unchangeables that are beyond our control. Stop, drop, and feel. Stop the thinking process. Once we've got the thinking process going, stop, drop into the body, and then feel as fully as possible. Yeah. Many of you know that I'm a very big fan of Buddha, and one of Buddha's teachings that I absolutely adore is that we believe that we are individuals, yet we are actually co-arising phenomena, all things creating all other things. And so when we come into an individuated contraction, we can actually come closer to reality by then creating a more inclusive experience of this moment, becoming more inclusive in our awareness, inclusive of our sensations, inclusive of the space around us, and so on. Yet something else that you brought up there, Katie, is we can also focus on what are the influenceables, what are the actionables, what are the things which are within our hands. For example, we're here today because I saw this is one thing that's within my hands, with the help of friends, yeah, like Tom, Matthew. You guys have been really helpful in terms of us being here with one another. You know, you weren't necessary, but wow, it becomes a lot easier when we do it together. And I say you weren't necessary not to negate you guys in any way, but just to say that we can all put things on, we can all create spaces, we can all focus on where does our circle of influence lie. Does anyone have anything they would want to add in terms of their fears or their concerns and or their excitements and hopes? Yes, Christina.
So I have an interesting conundrum kind of playing out in my head. First of all, let me just say that this is the first time I've spoken out loud today. Thank you for the opportunity to remember that my vocal cords are still there. And this I would put forth as a serious need that is very personal, that I am totally isolated. There is no quarantine buddy. There are no neighbors. So I'm here like completely in my own world. And it's helpful to have moments of connection. So interestingly, before all of this blew up in the last several weeks, I was working on redesigning myself and my path in, coaching. Actually had already interconnected in my mind with my longtime career in facilitating groups. So one of the coaching things that I wanted to offer as a product was like these small group support circles, guided support circles. And so now, I mean, I've developed this. I have a clear picture of what I want to do, but I actually feel really odd putting these things out there now because I feel like it's important to tune into people's financial insecurities. Maybe what I was going to ask money-wise is not what I need to be asking money-wise. Maybe structuring a different, I don't want, there is that part of me that doesn't want to be perceived as actually trying to take advantage of the situation, which is probably a terrible business attitude. Are you there as well? You understand what I mean? Okay. Oh, I'm so glad to hear I'm not alone, to see the twinkle fingers that I'm not alone. Yeah, so I feel like I'm reminded of that quote, that says, "Who are you to shine, to shirk from the world," or whatever it says. You were not meant to play small. But I'm really anxious about playing too big and like too ready for all the misery that's out there, you know. So I'm sitting there needing to like process that a little further until I feel fully comfortable stepping out and fully offering what I want to be doing, and which I need to do because, by God, I need these groups. This is part of my human design as well, and part of my, you know, natural way of being. I thrive with groups, and here I am, like all by myself. I need to get this started, but it's that funny, in that funny space of needing to check the integrity and make sure that it's really like aligned and also visible as I step out, if that makes sense.
So I want to get to a couple of ideas in relation to how we can tackle this particular thing. So thanks so much for voicing it, Christina. You're definitely not alone inside of this. And I've talked with friends and read posts from friends that is directly addressing the pariahs, the people who are preying on people's fears and saying how disgusted they are to see people kind of swooping in and saying, what is your Corona war path or your Corona war plan for your business? And there is definitely this interesting tension that can be there between providing for ourselves and caring for others, and how much we can just go on the altruistic route, and how much what ways we may be able to, let me bring in such a devilish word, as monetize the work that we do. And so there's work to be done potentially there in terms of the way that we see money. There is also work to be done in terms of how do we put forth the right offerings at this time that have respect for the situations that people are in. So we'll come back to that very point. And, you know, I think that that's something which is really lurking inside of this space. This is an uncomfortable time to be asking people, hey, not only would you like to do this, but would you like to pay me for it? And I do want to address that there is many people who are out of the market as far as coaching and personal development goes at this stage. There's many people who are out of the market. You know, I'm talking about people who would otherwise be open to taking on a coach or to being a part of a group program. Some people will be going, not right now. And, you know, there's enough uncertainty in my life. I can't invest that right now. And I appreciate that. So these are, you guys have voiced a couple of things, and I wanted to put forth some other ideas around things that people are being challenged by right now. So there is mindset concerns people have. How do I feel good within myself? I think there's a lot of people who are feeling psychologically itchy, unstable inside of themselves. So there's ways that we can support people on the mindset front. There's also a lot of people who, unlike Christina, are cooped up in houses with people that they haven't had this much contact with for years. And so there is relationship concerns that may be arising. There are some people, I was working with somebody the other day who is cooped up with her family, and she was very concerned about a particular relationship. And we did some work on specifically addressing the way that she was seeing that person. And in shifting the way that she was approaching that relationship, it's transformed the family dynamic. There's like, you know, 2 children, 2 parents who were there, and it's moved it from being an atmosphere of tension to an atmosphere of love through taking responsibility for the way that she was viewing this other person. Now, this is something which is there for us to serve people with right now. This is communication coaching, relationship coaching, being unconditionally responsible in terms of the way that we listen to others, in terms of the way that we speak with others, in terms of the nature of the conversations we have, and in terms of the invitations that we're making. So these are 2 key areas. And then there is those people who are in businesses that are still viable at this time. And so there are some people where it is utterly not a time to be supporting them in relation to projects. So yes, communication, absolutely. And so there is some people who are in businesses that are online. There are some people such as yourselves potentially who are in this space as well, of how do I work with people online. There are some people who are migrating from one space to another. There is people who are right here on the call, like Gabri, Tom, and Matthew, who have specific technical skills that are the missing link between effectiveness and ineffectiveness at this time. Yeah, there's people on the call right now, such as Christina and James, who are excellent with messaging, being able to share who you are and what you do. This is not specific skills. These are not skills that a lot of people have. Some people really lack those things. So there's specific value that we can create for people in that professional space. Now, more than anything, I think that if we're wanting to create value for people at this time, and I'm doing this primarily on just as free services at this stage, I've got, and I'll come to this idea of free and back end before too long, but there's a lot of things that we can do for people which can orient them towards the things which are in their hands, yeah, such as their own headspace. That's the number one place that we have influence. And then, of course, into our relationships. That's the secondary place that we have influence, or that we have a tangible shot at being able to create our lives, because that is something we can directly engage with by choice. So I want to say the first thing that we've got as a challenge. Hey, welcome, Megan. I'm stoked you're here. The first thing we've got as a challenge, hey, darling, is to identify people's needs and what needs you are wanting to focus on. We can't be all things to everybody, but we can be something to some bodies. And for me, I'm operating in 3 domains. I'm focusing on communication, that's that finger. I'm focusing on coaching skills, and I'm focusing on business skills. Those are 3 definite things that I know that I have skills within that I can bring to other people. And so, you know, this week, for example, after I finish here, half an hour later, I'm running a communication webinar. Then we've got creative coaching program on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're rolling out in French on Wednesday, Thursday for the first time ever. And then on Friday, I'll be running a coaching skills thing. In the evening, I'll be running an online party. On the Saturday, I'll be running a business skills. And other than the creative coaching program stuff, everything that I'm doing this week is just freebies. Just going, what are the needs that are out there that I can support people with? Justin, I've been seeing you popping on each day on Facebook Live, supporting people in relation to their headspace. And this is something which is right on point. That's something you can support people with at this time. So, you know, I really advocate going towards this. Sorry, I just saw that we had a message there. Yeah, thank you, Emily. I'm so excited that you're a part of it. Now, what can we do to find out these needs? We can ask people, like literally, when you're talking with your family and with your friends, we can ask them, what are you struggling with right now? What are you excited about? These are kind of these twin pillars of concerns and aspirations. Yeah. If we can solve problems and help people fulfill aspirations, we're doing our work. Whether it's free or not, there's already going to be a payment that comes to you in terms of knowing that you're doing your best. And that's the best you can do. And the fulfillment that can come from that. We can also, this might sound strange, but read the papers. I know that there's a lot of people who like to avoid that stuff at the best of times, let alone now. However, if you're willing to face the discomfort of 15 minutes of scanning headlines and seeing what themes are out there right now, you'll get a bit of a sense of what's going on in the zeitgeist, what's going on in the collective mind, and therefore be able to talk to things which are literally right there. Can I just see, as a show of thumbs up or down, who is engaging with the news at this time? Yeah, half, yeah, down, okay. And so that's entirely your prerogative to choose where you lie on that spectrum. Yet again, I will say that if you are, you're going to see a lot of things out there which are on point, which are like literally articles by psychologists about how we can support people at this time, key challenges that individuals are experiencing, and they are things that are directly addressable. And the other thing, you know, so along with asking others, reading the papers, is to just be really honest with yourself. What are you struggling with? And what are you trying to do? So in that way, we've got self, others, and world that we can be checking in on there. Ourselves, our relationships, and then the collective consciousness as represented by media. So we know that common fears that people have often include things such as loneliness. Christina, for example, you know, as you said, thank you for reminding me that I've got vocal cords. Now, loneliness is something that is potentially there for people at this time. Um, Uncertainty, it's another fear. This is a big thing that's there at this time. Loss of job, loss of security, loss of relationship, even loss of people. That is something else which is there at this time. Fear of change is something else. There is something else that for some people who are wanting to put themselves out there, like Hannah, I'm stoked that you're here, and I just want to bring the big ups and the acknowledgement to you for you putting yourself out there at this time. I want you to know that you are, in my heart, so respected and utterly accepted. And please, if there's anything that comes up in relation to rejection, with not having that many people come to something at this time, flush that, because you've got the win of having said yes to yourself. And that is a big, beautiful thing. And yet it would be very easy for people in general to have fears of rejection as we do our best to put ourselves out there. You know, I've done various posts in recent times, some which have over 100 engagements, some which have 8. It's like, okay, this is the way that things are going to be. There is going to be ups and downs in terms of the way that I personally am going to be responded to. But I'm going to be practicing acceptance and love of myself, and so we can support people on that front with rejection. There's also inadequacy concerns that people have. So like that's a list of 6 things that we can be supporting people with. Loneliness, if anyone wants to write these down, uncertainty, loss, change, rejection, inadequacy. So these are some of the things, some of the concerns that people may be facing at this time. And so into this space, you know, what are the messages that will be landing in people's ears? Now, thank you so much, Christina. Thank you. Now, given that there is a variety of things inside of relationships, you know, we can be provocative still. There is a space for humor as well still in our times. In fact, has anyone seen the parody of Hello, where the guy's stuck inside? That one was funny. Then there was the Bee Gees version of Staying Inside. Thank you very much for that one, James. I think it was you. Pass that over to me. Now, there is a whole range of things that we can do in terms of provocation and playing into that as well. You know, what if we can ask people, what if you are the problem in your relationships? That is a very likely possibility. In fact, it's the only actionable one. How are you the problem inside of your relationships? So we can talk directly to that. We can talk to people, all issues people may need support with. We can focus on the one thing which is utterly inside of our hands, which is, who do you choose to be? In the face of what is taking place, who do you choose to be? That is a direct and strong message that we can be going towards. We can focus on things such as creating certainty in uncertain times, orienting people towards what they can have certainty with inside of these uncertain times. If we're going towards business, we can focus on moving swiftly, obviously, refocusing, staying relevant. All I'm putting forward is find out what the needs are, find out what the concerns and the aspirations are of people, and talk directly to them. I had a bunch of generic webinar posts that I was going to be, webinar titles that I had put up about a week or so ago. And then I talked to one of my friends, and she just started to chuck COVID-19, Corona, straight into the headline time after time. I was like, yeah, that makes that more immediate. That's for sure. So there I was, kind of in a certain sense, tiptoeing around the edges of things, knowing that it was on point what I'd be talking about, but not bringing the point direct front and center. So one thing I'd say inside of our messaging is, let us not shy away from the exact space that people are in, because none of us likes people like people to fluff around the outside. My wife, who's an incredible coach and an incredible body worker, talks about in massage, she's not into someone giving her like a fluff and buff, where they just kind of go around the outside of all of the tensions, fluffing around. She wants people to get to the heart of the matter. And it's the same for us with our messages. Let us get to the heart of the matter and directly address exactly what's going on for people right now. So let's talk about, with a little bit of time that we've got left, how we can add value to our tribe. First of all, I just want to put forth that if you think of tribe, let me digress a moment longer. A lot of people inside of the coaching game think of this as being like a popularity contest. It's like, oh, I want to get to the top of the pops and win this popularity contest. And in some ways, people might frame having a tribe as having 10K, 20K, 100K or more followers. The word tribe says tribe, 3 or more people being together. Tribe, yeah? And so if you're wondering if you've got a tribe, you've got a tribe. So don't look down on yourself as not having the number of people that you need to have a tribe. If you've got 3 or more, by definition, you have a tribe, okay? And of those 3, you can be 1. So you only need 2 more and you've got a tribe, okay? So just to say, serve your tribe. You might be somebody, look, I got 300 Instagram followers. Not my thing, hasn't been my thing. Now I'm knocking on that door, but it's not something that has been a big thing for me. And that's not going to stop me, you know? Here we are, a tribe today of 15 of us who are on the call together. Focus on who you can. Focus on reaching out to whoever is part of your network. And then you have a tribe and you can add value to your tribe. So how can you? Number 1, be there for them. You know, just be there for people. Put it out there that you're there for people. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a business owner, I'm a busy man. And I don't want to like toot my own horn and then have you all go, oh, because he's tooting his own horn. It's not that. I just want to say that I've been very active this last week, and perhaps you guys have too. Be active, reach out for people, be there for people, give them a call, send them a message. Pablo, who's not here right now, but he's been bombing people with a message of how you're feeling. I love it. It just gets straight to the nub of what's going on. There's all this stuff, and then there's how we're feeling in relation to it. So be there for people. You know, number 2, we already went on this before, speak directly to people's concerns. You know, for example, are you struggling to connect as deeply as you want to in a time when you could do with a deep sense of connection? You know, speak directly to the concerns that people may have. Number 3, embody your message. Embody your message. So that means to me, if you are talking to people about mindset and then you are jumping all over the place inside of your own mind, go into practice or reach out to somebody. Be proactive in meeting your own needs, because the taste of inauthenticity is pretty icky. And it's really hard to be a powerful messenger when we are there going, I'm not my message. So recognize if you've got a message, and you all do, because as humans, we all have themes which are alive in our hearts and minds. Those themes which are alive in your heart and mind, they're your message. When you've got that message, then ask yourself, are you embodying it? And what can you do to embody it? Yeah. You can direct people to what other people are doing. Yeah. So if you, like the other day, I saw a friend of mine, just before I was putting on a party, and she ended up coming to this party, put out something saying, check out what this mob is up to. And they're doing, what's it called? Something, I think it's partyathome.com. Or no, it's homeparty.com. Yeah. So point people towards the things that will get them support. You don't need to be the promised land. You don't need to be the oasis in the desert. There might be a whole plethora. It might be a permaculture garden, as if we want to point it in a different direction. Point people over to the beans over here, over to the cherry tomatoes there. Show them where the things are at if you know what things are going on. Do non-businessy things. Yeah, do non-businessy things. Christina, this come back to your point earlier. Do a bunch of non-businessy things, and you might feel you're building the social capital to be able to offer businessy things into that space. Yeah, this is what I want to be completely explicit. I'm loving the skills that I have and what I focus on at this time, because it means that I've got a platform for having important conversations with different people. At least that's what I tell myself. And so I'm doing my best inside of that to work with that. But I've also got a game plan in as much as I've got a back end. So if some people choose that they're wanting to grow in certain ways and they feel like me and my friends who do this work together are the right place for them to learn, then we will be in their minds. Now, if it doesn't work out that way, I'm also going, what have I got in my bank account? What am I doing to make sure we ration our money, etc., budget our money in the best way possible, and so on. So I'm, as the Sufis say, I'm tying up my camel and trusting in Allah. I'm doing both at the same time. I've got a game plan of sorts there. I already said this before with the embody your stuff, but face your shit. If you got shit to face, sit in your shit, smell it, don't turn away from it, because if you don't sit in your shit and take it in fully, then when you're there with somebody else and their odor starts to come into the space, you're going to find yourself having an aversion to it. Whereas if you're able to be with your own, you can be with others too. Yeah. And lastly, I say create, create, create. Just create. One of my old business mentors said, do stuff. That was his number one maxim. Do stuff. Most businesses fail through indecisiveness rather than through bad decisions. Go ahead, make a million failures, or do a lot of things that fail. Doesn't matter. Put something else out there. Try something else. Keep on going. Unstoppability. Unstoppability is its own reward, just in terms of you seeing, I'm backing myself here. But over time, we refine, we get better, and it builds up its own momentum. So this brings me to pretty much the final points that I have before I come back to the group. And that is, so with the offerings that we're creating right now, one-to-many is great. I really like one-to-one is wonderful too. But one-to-many is beautiful because it can bring people together. There's a powerful message that we can put forward there of share this time in an intimate community or an intimate, purposeful community. Yeah. So and what happens, of course, when you create a one-to-many thing is you can bring price point right down for people, making it much easier for them to choose in. And at the same time, still scale your own price up to a point where you're feeling like that can take care of me. If we were going right down, for example, if you had a coaching program that you were doing with 8 people and it was only $25 per session over 6 sessions, even so, that's $200 per session, and that's $1,600 that you would get from that program. And yet each individual's only paid $150. Yeah. And they've got themselves support over the next 6 weeks of their life for $150 with somebody perhaps who's choosing to support the group inside of session and beyond. So, we can play with metrics in that way by going on the one-to-many side of things. Going for intensives, that's something that I'm choosing to do anyway. This is especially for people who are wanting to pivot at this time. So, like, I've got this business pivot, which is called The Great Work, and that is about getting your offering up and out, clarifying your messages, who you serve, having a contract, having a brochure, all within 2 weeks. Because if people are needing to move from being a massage therapist and they're not allowed to touch people anymore, then what is it that they can still do with people in the online space? Yeah. If people were a naturopath before and now they're wanting to add coaching skills, for example, how can I serve them in such a way that they have skills for working on mindset, relationships, and projects, the big 3 of coaching, just like that. So we've got 2-week coaching intensives coming up soon as well. So I'm going, intensives are good because they help people move fast. That's one thing that we can do on that. The other thing is be as practical as possible. I think it's great if we are talking mindset. I think it's great if we're talking psychological stability. I think it's great if we're talking these things. I think it's lesser time to be talking about manifestation and talking about, get into, I don't want to sound, I don't want to talk down to any message actually, but what I do want to say is if your offering's tangible, if your offering is transform the nature of your relationships, have deeper connection, have greater understanding, learn communication skills that allow you to be courageous in the face of your fears, etc. These are tangible things that people can apply. Yeah. So where you can, make sure that your messages and your offerings are as practical as possible. With your offerings, do not shy away from the times we are in. Just be explicit, yeah? And finally, think strategically in terms of having free stuff and a back end. If you're wanting this to lead over to you making some money from this, if not lots of money, or if you're wanting this to turn into abundance for yourself, I have no judgment in relation to money. For me, I was taught years ago that money is love. And at first I looked at it and went, no, it's not. My belief in corporate pariahs and all of these things that have been inculcated into me since I was young. I was like, no, money is got bad business. Yeah. It took my parents away from me for periods of time. It's manipulation, it's dark and all of that. And then I went, actually, money's energy. And then we choose what to do with that energy. And if I relate to money as love when I receive it, if I relate to money as love when I give it, I feel a lot better. And so that's the framework that I operate inside of. At the same time as that, I know that there is some people out there. I don't know if you all have been seeing people like selling bleach as a miracle cure, and seeing televangelists doing all kinds of stuff where they really take the last $1,000 and say that it's like Jack's bean that will turn into the beanstalk. Give me $1,000, it'll come back to you through God's kingdom. Okay, there is a lot of bullshit which is out there like that. But if you create real value for people and you're willing to acknowledge the work that you put in there, the energy that you put in there, the love that you put in there, and then you're ready to receive for that, it's up to you what your game is. But the point is, have a strategy in terms of put things out there and have a back end. What that back end is for you, I don't know. My back end, our back end in Selfcraft is very different today than what it was 3 weeks ago. Yeah. 3 weeks ago, we were talking about our 6-month program, one-on-one, our 6-month program, one-to-many. Now we're talking about all community programs of 2 weeks and less. Because I've gone, okay, that's the time we're in. So let's focus on how we can meet people's needs at this time. And so part of my strategy is being here with you. Part of my strategy is being here again on Friday and Saturday. But at the same time as that's my strategy, it's also my service. And I'm going to get the rewards from just being here regardless. I'm not like, hey, I do this and I'm stressed out about whether or not it's going to lead to something on the back end. That will be a heart closure. That'll make me feel less relaxed than I want to feel in life. I like to feel good. So do good by people and we feel good inside of ourselves. Focus on how we can take care of people. And at the same time as that, think about where might that lead. Or otherwise, you're not in business, you're in a not-for-profit, and that's fine too. If you want to operate in a not-for-profit at this stage, then that's a beautiful thing. Be entirely altruistic, that's a beautiful thing. And I back you inside of that choice. However, if you're choosing to play the game of business, ask yourself, what is the business offering? Create it, yeah? Finally, I'd say that when it comes to the money side of things, there's 2 questions that I think are important, and that is, what do you need and what do you want? Yeah. If you can clarify what you actually need to get by in life and focus on that as being the front end of your offering. So this is different to the back end I'm talking about before. But what I mean is, if you have payment plans you offer people and you can focus on what you need as being as what you put into the payment plan at the front end, and then at the payment plan at the back end that can move towards what you want, that's a way that you can lower what the initial outlay may be. So spreading things over time is a smart idea at this time, I believe. People are likely to assume, and fairly enough, that things are going to be more stable in 3 months than they are now. I could be wrong, could be well and truly wrong. However, there's also ways that we could create a risk reversal guarantee, which is something like we have the down payment, and then we have, if you have the means at this point in 3 months' time, then you pay the remainder, or whatever the case may be. So we can even take away the risk from them of sharing with them that we understand the times that we're in. And if the job has been lost, and if the economy has gone to shit, etc., that we are not necessarily going to be able to hold them to a particular commitment that they're making now, because there are uncertainties in the space. You can talk directly with clarity about the times that we're in and have that be part of the money discussion. But lowering the barrier of entry is something that you can do, definitely, at this time. So yeah, payment plans. If you're wanting to get all weird, there's people who are doing Corona specials right now. I'm not talking about beer. But the main thing that I really want to say is that at this time, if you are somebody who's in the business of coaching, therapy, personal development, and so on, there is a long game to be played. Right now, we're in this time where it feels like the trees are right up here and we're making our way through a forest where things are very tight. But you're actually still on the open path that goes out over a long period of time. And so if you are generating goodwill and serving people right now, your spiritual reward, your heart reward, your moral satisfaction, all of those things, that's your instantaneous payments already. However, there is a kind of law in the universe that tends to operate as energy out equals energy back. And so if we continue during this time to be activated by it and to give energy as best as we can, come whatever time in a future that may be near or far, people are going to hold in their hearts that we were there and we were doing our best. And whether it's subconscious or conscious, these people are going to be brought back to you in various different forms. And so that's my main advice in this time, is to be a creator, you know, to look at what it is that your themes and messages are in the spaces that you can create for individuals and groups, and do your best to do so. And with that, that's what I've got for us today. We've got, you know, as I said, in half an hour, we're exploring listening. Thank you, Christina. In half an hour, I'm doing a communication webinar on listening, the power of listening, how we can listen as deeply as possible and bring more love to our relationships through the gift of our presence to people, of being utterly there. And on Friday, I'll be doing a coaching skills workshop, which is focused on supporting people in relation to defining their key roles and what they want to bring to those key roles. So it's really more of a relationship coaching style workshop. On Saturday, I'm going to be going into some pretty, I reckon, risque territory for this time, and that's sales. So I'm going to be talking about wholehearted sales, what it is for us to be engaging in sales processes with people with an open heart and with an ethical orientation. Because a lot of people feel all slimy and weird around sales, whereas I look at it as an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody about something I'm passionate about and they're evidently interested in. So therefore, it can be a really meaningful and beautiful conversation to share with people. So those are things that I've got coming on pretty soon. Oh, and then there's a party that's on Friday night in which we're going to be focusing on dialoguing about imagining the world we want to create whilst we're all pausing here as humanity. And maybe some of us don't want to go back to business as usual. We want to go into business as we want it. We're going to go into that. What do we really want? And Christina, I'd love for you to share your story again inside of that one, because I just think it created a spell and a space for us all. If there's a chapter 2, wonderful, you know, just putting it out there. So yeah, with that, please unmute yourselves if you feel to, and we can all say our goodbyes and thank yous. But for me, there's one choice that we make in our lives, and that is what we do with our time. And you guys have chosen to share that time here. So I don't take it lightly. I take it very gratefully. And I thank you very much for choosing to share this time together.
Thank you,
Thank you, Kai.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caro.
Thank you, everybody. Look around, see these beautiful faces. We might feel like we're far away from folks, but not so far after all. Hey, Emily. All right. So with that, maybe I see some of you soon. Emily, I'll definitely see you in a couple of days' time. And much love and all the very best wishes to you, to your family, and everybody you care about.
Thank you.
Back at you, Karen. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye, everyone.